Hey guys, it's Makuma. I realized that I needed to start painting, so I decided that I would pull out some models and do like a little paint and talk, and really try to focus on painting for this one. I'm going to be talking throughout it so that you don't get too bored watching me, because this isn't really about painting, it's just about stuff I have to say. Now I'm working on some witches. Let me show you a couple other ones that I've done here. Got this little girl here, and I'm doing this mix. Somebody, my girlfriend's brother, very generously sent me some paints for Christmas, and they're these tester high gloss paints. And I was thinking, I was like, well, I don't really paint model cars or anything. I don't really know what I'm going to do with these, but actually, I found a lot of use for them. And one of the uses is these like metallic colors. For instance, this metallic red. My Vallejo paints don't really do this very well when I mix a silver or bolt and metal with the normal red. It doesn't really come out that great, but when I do with the Tester's high gloss paints, it makes a pretty cool effect. You can see with this blue and the red that I just showed you. I really like it. Another thing that I found a use for it is I've been using these Spectra Tech or Tex or whatever, Spectra Tex paints, which are these cheap airbrush paints I found at Michael's. They're not super great, but they're nice and thin, and they have sort of a transparent quality to them. And I've been mixing them with this Tester's high gloss red and making some pretty cool gore out of them. You see on the knee pad there, and then here on the weapon. There's a really reflective, nasty looking gore. Not as good as like Freak Flex would be. Freak Flex red would make a really nice blood because it's so transparent and dark, but I like this. I mean, it has that cartoony comic book feel that I like to paint with high contrast and whatnot. I've been working on making the eyes more expressive. Yeah, I think it's coming along pretty well. Anyways, so let's get to painting. That'll make this go faster, I think. So I guess I just really wanted to talk about what's going on with Warhammer in general. I love 6th edition. I'd like to point that out first. I think 6th edition is great. I play Tau and Tyranids, and many people are, claiming that the Tyranids got a raw deal in 6th edition with the changes to assaulting, the addition of Overwatch, things like that. And maybe they did. Maybe they did get a little bit of a raw deal, but Tyranids are like my favorite models in the game. So I would really hate admitting that some rule made them unplayable and just putting them on the shelf and never seeing them again. When I first started playing, my first army was Tau, and I felt that way. I was like, back in 4th edition, I was like, I don't even want to play these guys anymore because I just keep losing. And I had this big crybaby moment where I almost got rid of my army. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because the struggling through learning their codex and everything really helped me, I think, become a better player in the long run. And then, I got the models because I thought they looked cool, not really for any particular rules or anything. And then the Tyranids were kind of the same way. I got the Tyranids because I thought they looked cool. And then when I first started playing Tyranids in 5th edition, I had so many victories, like right in a row, and my friends were talking about how awesome they were. And I'd go to the local game store, and they would tell me how bad the Tyranids were. They would say, well, the Tyranids can't send up the Space Marines, and Bolter Fire just kills them and everything. And I couldn't really disagree, I think, but I did think that they were wrong. I didn't have any reason to think they were wrong. I just thought, I win a lot with my Tyranids, and I don't believe that they're that bad. And so I started doing some wacky lists where I just take Gene Stealers, and I'd win games with that, and people would be really upset with me. And the Warrior Prime, I love the Warrior Primes. I think they're great. And I really like Warriors too, although I acknowledge that their major weakness is the fact that Strength 8 weapons just smash them, and they don't really have any way to deal with that. And that's a big problem. But I'm not letting that stop me from using Warriors in the form of Warrior Primes, so I guess I got that going for me. I'd really love to take a big unit of like 9 Warriors, with Lashhook Bone Sword and Death Spitter and like the Barb Strangler, and they just dump them out of a Mycetic Explorer. I'm pretty sure that they would all die, in the next couple turns, but it would be a lot of fun. You'd have so many Strength 5 shots coming out of them that it's got to do something good. And then if anybody tried assaulting them, because the chances are that if they're not putting their strength 8 weapons on them, they're going to last a couple turns from shooting. So if the enemy wants to get all that strength 5 shooting out of their backfield in a hurry, he's going to have to assault them. And assaulting a bunch of guys with lash whips and bone swords is not really a good idea. The only downside to that plan is you can't put the warrior prime in their brood, so they don't get the weapon skill 5 plus the skill 4 that I would really like them to have. But you know, whatever. So the prime, let's talk about him for a little bit. Prime, man, that guy, he's cheap, survivable, and with a little bit of stagger support, he can be a real devastating guy. And my plan, I don't know if you, in my other video I'm going to put up, I don't know which one to put up first, but my plan is to, with the rule changes, put the prime in a Gene Stealer squad with the Broodlord, and then outflank the whole mess. Now they can't assault after outflank, but I am hopefully going to be outflanking them into a place where they can't be shot at immediately. And then I'm going to have a nasty Broodlord and a nasty prime able to move around the table, and you know, of course, accompanied by a few Gene Stealers. And if somebody's not worried about that, if somebody sees that, they're not like, oh, that's whatever, they'll just ignore it, then, I mean, I don't know what army they're playing, but I think that would be a big mistake. I think they'd have to respond to that pretty quickly. Otherwise, you know, that the Gene Stealers alone are awesome. The Broodlord by himself can take out whole squads of Space Marines. I've done it before. And then the Prime, you know, he's going to be bad 8 too. And the really nice thing about that is, if they do end up charging a unit, the enemy sergeant can't just challenge the Broodlord and take him out of the fight. I mean, sure, he can issue a challenge, and I'll probably answer it with a Broodlord, but then I'll still have the Prime to, you know, wipe out a big clutch of guys. And there's a bit of a downside there in that I'm probably going to be wiping out squads as soon as I hit them. I mean, I'm probably just going to tear through a squad and then be available to be shot at the next shooting phase. Whatever. I don't care. It'll be fun. I don't think I'm going to win any tournaments with that list or that idea, but man, it'll be nasty. I like bloodbath battles. I really like it when battles end with 1 or 2 units left on the table. It's like my favorite. Please ignore that water sound. My table here is pretty close to the bathroom. I know it's very annoying. And yeah, so anyway, what do you guys think about the Tyranids? There's a lot of negative stuff about them right now out on the internet. Somebody kind of offhand mentioned to me that they thought the Tyranids got a boost in 6th edition, and I don't know where they got that from. I don't know if they play Tyranids or what, but that's not been the consensus in my gaming community. I personally like the rules for the Tyranids now, and I don't think it does anything really to change them that much. I think Hormagaunts are really great still, especially if you're able to give them endurance. It makes them stupid strong. And then if they happen to end up outside of Synapse range and they get rage, now instead of having to attack the nearest unit, they just get 2 extra attacks on the charge. And you tell me a bunch of little guys with scything talons with 2 extra attacks isn't dangerous for another close combat unit, then you're crazy. That's how I feel. Being outside of Synapse range has its own issues, but I just think that would be so cool. Also, I like to give... I'm pretty bad about being efficient with points, and I like to give toxin sacks and all that stuff to my broods of Hormagaunts and Gene Stealers, and let them kill as much stuff as they possibly can. So maybe that's a bad idea points-wise, but I just love doing that, and I like it when the little Hormagaunts hit a unit and just destroy it, especially when it's a unit of like Terminators. That happened to me in a game before. It was back in 5th edition, mind you, but it would have been pretty much the same outcome. A unit of Assault Terminators came down, like, I don't know, 6 inches in front of a Hive Tyrant and a bunch of Hormagaunts. And the Hive Tyrant had, I think it's Old Adversary, the one that gives units around him preferred enemy. And so my Hormagaunts ran in there, smashed into the guy. Preferred enemy wouldn't do the Hormagaunts any good anyway now because they have Scything Talons, but it's only 1 reroll. But they smashed into the Assault Terminators and dropped him in that first turn. of combat. And the Assault Terminators were so far away from any of the other units when they deep struck that the enemy couldn't really retaliate with any firepower because everything was out of range. And he was not very happy about that. And then the Hormagaunts lasted the entire game. I think they finished the game with a unit of like 13 left, and they started out with 20. And the very last image from the game was the Hormagaunts swarming over the Space Marine Captain, which was like one of 2 models that were left on the table after I got done smashing everything. My Zoanthropes took out a Predator. My Termagants were just holding an objective. And that's back when I was doing a unit of 3 warriors and a warrior prime, and they all had Lash Whip and Bone Sword, and they were just hanging out by my objective, not really doing anything. Maybe a waste of points. But he dropped a bunch of Vanguard veterans down, like right next to my objective, and then assaulted into my warriors with the Lash Whip Bone Sword and the Prime with Lash Whip and Bone Sword. And they didn't even get to swing. I just wiped them out. Yeah. And also, he wasn't happy about that either. And then the Zoanthrope's taking out his tank. That didn't please him. So the game ended with me pretty much having my entire army left, minus about 15 Termagants and some Hormagaunts, and then I think he actually managed to kill the Zoanthropes too. But they'd already done their job by then. Yeah, so he had like 2 models left. I wouldn't call that a good game. I would call that a game that pleased me just because I won so handily. But I think a good game is a game that's really close with a lot of death on both sides. That's what I like. My friend, he plays Orcs, and I like to play Tau against his Orcs. And we usually end up with both of us have like 1 model left at the end of the game. And it's a lot of fun. Those are the kind of games I really enjoy. I also did a couple recent games where it was Tau against Grey Knights, and we finished the game with like nothing left on both sides. A lot of fun, and I think it was actually a tie too. It was a kill points game, and he had like some random Grey Knights standing in the middle of the table, and I jumped out some gun drones to help finish them off. And then I tried hiding the gun drones after that, but they got shot down, and that's the whole reason I ended up tying the game, because I had First Blood and Line Breaker and stuff too. So, and I was actually doing a 2 Hammerhead list that time, 2 Hammerheads instead of any broadsides. I didn't like the sound of that when I did it. Like, when I was writing the list, it was hard because it's almost like breaking the law to not take any broadsides with your Tau. But he wasn't really taking any heavy vehicles, and he wasn't taking a lot of vehicles either. He did have a Storm Raven, so it would have been nice to have the broadsides, because I think they work pretty well against flyers. But yeah, the Hammerheads were actually pretty sweet because I was using them to take out his big troop formations, and he did take a lot of henchmen, so Hammerheads were good for that. And it's funny because I took them with that idea. I was like, alright, I'm just going to wipe out troop formations, but I actually ended up using them against his Chimeras early in the game, and they worked really well. And that's one thing I don't like about Hammerheads, is that I always end up rolling bad to hit with them, and of course I don't get that reroll. But no, it was actually working out pretty well. They were dropping vehicles pretty much every turn. Yeah, the only thing that really I couldn't drop for whatever reason, whether it was cover saves or not being able to penetrate, was his Dreadnought. He had a Cyphelman Dreadnought out on the field, doing a little bit of damage. I mean, it wasn't super horrible to me because I did have my 3+ cover save Devilfish out there. I don't know if any of you played against that, but a lot of people get annoyed by the 3+ cover save Devilfish, thanks to the new FAQ for the Tau, which I love. But he was he was shooting them every once in a while and couldn't really do anything. He did eventually drop them, but it was like the end of the game that they went down, which is not really the case usually when you have armor 12 vehicles against this Cyphelman Dreadnought. And then one thing that was pretty devastating was that he was using Cotiers and some Purgation Squad, I think they're called. The guys with all the Cybolts, or the guys with all, what are they called? Cyguns, Cybolts, whatever they're called. And he was casting this spell that would allow them to shoot without needing line of sight. And then the unit that they were shooting would only get a 4+ cover save. So the first thing I did, my first move of the game, was to turbo boost a Piranha way up the table. and I was like, yeah, he's got a disruption pod, so he's gonna have a 2+ cover save. Well, his power only allows you to have a 4+ cover save, and it can't be modified. And I was like, damn it! So he dropped my Piranha pretty much right out the gate. Luckily, I'd killed a Chimera my first turn, so he didn't take first blood from me. But man, that was rough. I was like, I was hoping that it was gonna at least annoy him for a couple turns, but no, the thing went right down. Not only that, but I pretty much blocked line of sight completely. I'm not really aware of what that power was gonna end up doing, and yeah, it hurt pretty good. So if any of you guys out there are thinking about some non-Paladin Grey Knight lists, that was a really good one. The rest of the army was kind of lackluster in my opinion, but that one squad was devastating. And then he had a hard time dealing with my Pathfinders. He was shooting other things at my Pathfinders, trying to save those Purgation Squad Brigaders for meteor targets, and the Pathfinders were just making cover saves like crazy. So he was having a hard time, and every turn the marker lights were hitting and making my shooting more effective. And marker lights are the best. People that don't use Pathfinders claim that they're too expensive. They're like a waste of points. But I think one marker light is easily worth 10 points. And since you're basically only spending a couple extra points per Pathfinder to get a marker light on their weapons, I disagree. I think that they're a great expenditure of points. Plus, you get the Devilfish with them that can help them re-roll scatter dice for deep striking units. And I tend to use deep striking units pretty often, so there you go. Also, I'd like to mention that the stealth suits have gotten a whole lot better now that the stealth field generator offers stealth and shrouding. So stealth suits get a 2+ cover save as long as they're standing in some cover, and then your opponent just kind of has to deal with it. I suppose you could use those that purgation combo with Kotiaz, like I mentioned, but the stealth suits aren't really a threat. They're not super good at killing anything, unless you're playing orcs. They're pretty good against orcs, and I only take 3 of them, so it's a little 90-point unit with a 2+ save, and they outflank or deep strike. I like to outflank, and I basically just use them to get Linebreaker. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Linebreaker. So it's a pretty hardy Linebreaker getting unit. So you might say like, oh, that's a lot of points to spend in a non-troops unit. Yeah, but they're still getting an objective. And it doesn't matter what game type you're playing, Linebreaker always gives you a victory point. So 90 points for almost guaranteed victory point, I think it's pretty much worth it. If you disagree, let me know. I doubt you will. And then each one of them is taking 3 strength 5 shots. Now they're not super accurate shots, but that is nice. And you can also, if you get really crazy, take a gun drone with them, and then the gun drone is a pinning weapon, and you don't have a very super good chance of killing anything with it, but if you do, then it's a pinning weapon, and it also adds more wounds to your Linebreaker squad. I think that's pretty sweet. Now, the gun drones, I think, are also going to benefit from stealth and shrouding. Yeah. And if you take some shield drones, then there you go. I mean, that's a very expensive unit. I think that at that point is too expensive. But if you're planning on using your stealth suits to kill anything, shield drones are kind of a must, considering that stealth suits are only toughness 3 and they only have 1 wound. The shield drones will actually make them kind of survivable. I saw a guy use a list a long time ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and he had a whole squad of stealth suits, however many they can come with, 9 or whatever, or 6, I'm not sure. And then he had 2 gun drones on each suit, so we're talking about like 18 gun drones, and that was a lot of firepower, and it didn't win him the game, but his opponent, my friend Richard, had a pretty tough time taking that unit down. And now with the new rules with their 2+ cover saves, it would be even more difficult to take that unit down, so it might be even more viable now. And that would be like your main source of firepower, which is kind of a downside considering that gun drones and stealth suits aren't really the best at shooting things. If you want fire support, then regular crisis suits are far better suited to that task, considering the fact that they can take AP2 and AP1 weapons for every member of the unit instead of just one member of the unit, and then they can, or 1 in 3, I suppose, whatever it is. And then they're more accurate with things like target lock. They can fire 2 weapons. The stealth suits can only take 1 weapon system. And then, the crisis suits are also, they have the advantage of taking different war gears. Each one can have a different set of war gear, unlike the stealth suits, which all have to have the same upgrade. Except for the team leader, he can take stuff from the war gear section individually, which is pretty cool, because I guess then it'd be worth it to give him a fusion blaster and a target lock. So now I'm just kind of rambling. Yeah. What time? I don't know how much time I've been. I should probably have a timer up while I'm talking and painting here, because it's probably been quite some time. But anyway, why am I painting this Dark Eldar's hair this weird greenish blue color? Well, because the idea we have for our Dark Eldar, the client and I say our because I guess I'm painting them. I feel like I have a little bit of ownership at this point, but they're supposed to all look like little club kids. Those cybergoth kids who put a bunch of weird stuff in their hair and wear those crazy goggles and weird colors. I'm personally not a fan of cybergoth myself. I prefer industrial, like the old school stuff from Metropolis, but whatever. But I mean, it makes a really neat look for the Dark Eldar here. And the main thing we're going for is we're adding purple. Purple's supposed to just pop out, not really be a main color, but show up. So a couple of these witches have, almost full purple outfits. And then the others are a little more individualized. And as you can see from the painting I've been doing and what you've been watching here, I don't do anything complicated. All my paint work is very simple. I just paint for high contrast. And I'm not even very good at it. But I guess if you're willing to take the time to paint something and another person is not willing to take the time to paint something, there's a market for you to paint it for them. And if that sounds kind of cynical, I'm sorry, but every time I paint something and I feel like I didn't do a super great job at it, and I try to fix it and everything. At some point, though, I've got to just give up and take it to my client and show it to him and be like, this is the best I can do. And he's like, oh, that's amazing. I think he's just happy that they have paint on him now. I'm not saying that you can just paint them how, and not take any care and just cover them in random paint and then they'll be happy with them. But as long as you're doing your best and you have a price that they don't think is crazy, you'll both agree that it's a reasonable price, then yeah, you can do some commission work. Do I think that I could do this for a living? Well, no, but my friends disagree. So there's that, I guess. Now I'm having a really hard time finding my gray. Oh, I guess I can use this one. Mix it with a little bit of black. I bet I'd let my friend borrow it. That's probably what I did. I'm really bad about that. I like to share the wealth, so to speak. So when I have something that I really like a lot, it's not as pleasurable for me unless other people are also enjoying it and I can talk to them about it. So I tend to let people borrow things often and then forget that I did. So whenever I'm missing something, I just assume I let somebody borrow it and it's gone. Because I'm also bad about asking for things back. When somebody will try to give something back to me, and then I'll be like, "No, I'm good. I don't really need it right now." So, what happens is my friends end up just giving things to me as I'm leaving their house. Like, "Oh, you let me borrow this. Here you go," and they'll just kind of put it in my hands, and then I'll leave with it. Why don't I use white and black? And that's how I get the things back that I let people borrow. If somebody's a little less honest and they just want to keep it, then I suppose that's what I get. But it's just stuff. The only things I'm really possessive over are my Warhammer figurines, my books, I guess. I mean, I like to keep my books around. I get upset when my books are missing, so yeah, I guess that counts. Yeah. I don't like it when my computer gets broken either. So, my ideas for tau lists for the future. I like taking a lot of Fire Warriors now. And that's not because I think that they can kill a lot of stuff. or that I think that they're very good. It's just that I like to look at them on the table more than anything. Yeah. So I take a lot of Fire Warriors, and I take Devilfish, and that tends to make a pretty good combo. I tend to stick around on the table a lot longer than I used to for whatever reason. Probably the 3+ save for the vehicle. I'm sure that's what's doing it. And then I like taking maybe 1 or 2 Crisis Suit teams for support. I usually take a Chassel. I'm not above taking a Chassel. I think that the Chassel is expensive, but he's got some pretty neat stuff that can work to his advantage. And then, I mean, Ballistic Skill 5 for, a couple extra points is pretty sweet. But I usually take a Chassel, and then I have dabbled with the Bodyguard squad, but I think that's more for higher point games, only because they're more expensive, and the main thing you get out of them is the ability to put multiple pieces of war gear on them in the form, because they're all Chassel themselves, or whatever you call them, Chassfray. So that means you can put lots of individual war gear on them, and then they can have that enhanced ballistic skill, and then have hardwired stuff as well. I have done that, and I think it's fine, but the unit's expensive, so it's less other stuff I can have on the table, and that's why I like to take Crisis Suits. Now, I'll usually take 1 unit of Crisis Suits with the commander. That's how I've been doing it recently, and that seems to be enough. I can keep them hidden really well, especially with their new 2d6 assault jump. I can keep them hidden really well, and that keeps them in the game for a really long time. And then they just jump out and shoot a target that I deem worthy of being shot that turn. Usually something I can kill in one volley, a tactical squad or something that doesn't have invulnerable saves. I just want to get them off the table quickly, so I'll just drop them. If it's a troop choice, then it's even better. And then I love taking the Monat, the one guy with Meltas or Flamers or both. I would do a Shaz Fray with twin-linked Meltas, a Flamer, hardwired multi-tracker, and that's pretty much it. And that way, even if you went the other way and did twin-linked Flamers and a Melta, that'd be good too. But basically, you can drop the guy in, use the Pathfinder Devilfish to reroll his scatter if he doesn't end up where you want, and then flame. You can twin-link flame a unit, which is awesome against a lot of armies. It even works pretty well against Space Marines, believe it or not. Just because when you can take randomness out of the equation and automatically hit with a flamer, then wow, you're basically getting a whole bunch of hits which are more likely to convert to wounds. So you can kind of count some of your chickens before they hatch, so to speak. And man, if you happen to be facing Imperial Guard or Orcs, then yeah, twin-link flamers are the bomb. And then if you go the twin-link Melta route, then you can pretty much drop down and finish off a tank. So if there's an exceedingly dangerous tank in the background, say for Tau, they have that Imperial Guard tank and the Lemon Russ, and he has a configuration that can ignore cover saves, and it's AP4. That would be a good candidate for this Monat to destroy. Or Space Marines now with the Dark Angels, I guess. So their Whirlwind stuff. I have a new Whirlwind, I guess. And then even just regular Whirlwinds ignoring cover would be bad. I'd probably wipe them out too. That'd be another good candidate. So, broadsides, they're awesome. Everybody knows broadsides are awesome. But is there no reason now to take hammerheads? I don't know. I like hammerheads. They're a little bit cheaper. It's cheaper to take 1 hammerhead than 3 broadsides. And hammerhead still has a railgun. And the nice thing about the hammerhead's railgun is it has the option to do submunition round. So if you guys out there, if you don't like the idea of having a Strength 6 AP4 large blast, then forget I said anything. But I think it's a pretty sweet tool. And now with the new template rules, or blast rules, when a blast clips a vehicle, it still uses its full strength against it instead of half like it used to. So if there's like a formation of, Chimera or rhinos or whatever, land speeders, or say they're taking a squadron of land speeders, or anything like that, anything with like a low armor value, then a strength 6 large blast is going to be awesome against that. which in that case actually kind of makes it better than a squad of broadsides would be, because as long as the scatter's good, then they're all going to hit, and then they're all going to have a good chance of penetrating, and I like that. Yep. So as far as the okay. So as far as broadside versus hammerhead, I don't think that one is better than the other. I just think that they both have their place. And if you take a hammerhead, then that's good. That's not bad. It's fine. And if you see a person taking a hammerhead instead of a broadside, I wouldn't go and give them a hard time for it, because maybe they have a plan and you could look stupid if you face them after giving a hard time and losing to that list. Right? That to me is like the ultimate fail, is when you walk up to somebody before a tournament begins and you say, oh, that's going to be stupid. Why'd you bring those guys? Oh, that's totally not going to work. And then you end up facing them and then they stomp you. That would be horrible. So when I see an opponent at a tournament and I don't really like his list, I think it's a bad list, I don't say anything to him about it, except, hey, nice painted models. Or, hey, what's your plan with these guys? Because I don't want to judge before I'm facing them. I might voice my opinions to my friend standing next to me. But even then I gotta be careful, because if I lose, then my friend gets the chance to give me the I told you so look, or just basically give me a hard time. So yeah, it's not really worth it to down on other people's lists before you played against them. After you've beaten them, after you've tabled their army in turn 3, and they're in last place, and you're in first place, then I'd say you can probably talk some crap about their army. That's probably when it's safe. But even still, I mean, unless you're friends with the guy and you're giving him a hard time just to be, just to be like a friendly, like punch in the arm or whatever, I still wouldn't do it, because don't you want to play a game with that guy in the future? I certainly would. If he's easy to beat, then that means that you're gonna have a pretty fun game. I mean, it's always fun to win, right? And if you can keep a guy happy and he doesn't mind losing because he's playing against a cool opponent who doesn't rub it in his face, then yeah, I would have that guy over all the time and boost my ego. It's just not worth it to be a jerk, especially in a game like 40k, because think about how much time it takes to paint models. If you're facing an opponent who's got a fully painted orc army, and his orc army consists of flamers and stuff that you think are terrible, just consider his feelings, because he's spent a lot of time painting those models. It doesn't matter what quality they're painted to, it still takes a long time, and he is just trying to have a good time, and you come in and you're telling him his list is garbage and he should basically just quit playing the game. That's not cool. Right? I mean, the least you could do is offer him some advice or help him. I mean, but to down on him for playing the army that he likes, maybe he picked them because he liked the look of them, it's got nothing to do with their tactics or anything. I would just advise against giving anybody a hard time, even on the internet, like on YouTube, when you see somebody play a list, and then, and I'm guilty of this too, so I'm speaking from experience. You see somebody play a list, and you kind of just know how it's going to turn out when you see it, and then you see his opponent, and then he's going to play the game, and he loses badly. Try not to give him too much crap, and I know that I've done that, so I need to learn my own lessons too. There's another thing too about YouTube, when somebody's playing and they get a rule wrong, and then you want to comment on it real quick. Just watch the whole video first, and this is where I have a real big weakness. I tend not to do this. Watch the whole video, because maybe at the end they mention that they got the rule wrong, or they prove that the rule is right, and you would have missed it and then made yourself look like an ass by commenting on it. And I've done that before. So if you do that and they prove you wrong or whatever, then try to go back and apologize and make a concession, be like, yeah, you were right, I'm sorry, that was stupid of me, and just try to backtrack your jerkness a little bit. I've had to do it a couple times, and I've had a little bit too much of a venomous tongue. When somebody's playing a game, they get a rule wrong. I was watching a game with Marneus Augusta Calgar and one of his friends, and the guy was using lash of submission back in the old Chaos Codex, and he was they were letting him use it to push units off the table and kill them. And it specifically says in the rule, in the Codex, when you read the entire rule, that you can't do that. And I was like, oh, what a cheater, he's cheating, that's cheating. And Marneus got pretty mad at me, and he was saying, he's not cheating, he just didn't know I need to not be a giant poop head and accuse my friends of cheating, because we're all just playing a friendly game. And then I felt really bad. I was like, oh crap, I just accused his friend of cheating. I don't know that guy. I mean, I'm not Marneus' friend, right? I mean, maybe we're YouTube friends, but I don't know him. I don't spend any time with him. This other guy is obviously a lot closer to him than I am. I mean, I don't even live in the same country. And here I am telling Marneus that the guy's a cheater. I don't even know him. So maybe the guy's like a really cool guy. Maybe he like saved Marneus' kids from drowning in a car crash. I don't know. I should just keep my mouth shut, and that goes for everybody, really. Now, if you have a real grievance, for instance, I feel like when Beast of War says pretty much anything online, that they're stupid and that they shouldn't say things online if they're going to be idiots, then yeah, I think that's fine, because it doesn't really matter. They're just as big a jerk as you are. I think the Beast of War guys can be giant jerks too, especially, I can't remember any of their names right now, but yeah, I think if you watch any of their videos, you know what I'm talking about. They just basically call people out. They're like, if you think I'm wrong, tell me, and I'll prove you wrong, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm sure they don't mind getting crap. That's kind of the point of their channel, is to stir stuff up. But they get rules wrong all the time. I mean, they did this thing about flying monstrous creatures, and they read the rule wrong, and they thought that for every hit, you have to take a grounding test. And that's not the case. It's for every unit that hits them, which it specifically says it right there in the rule book. And then they were like, that makes them a flying monstrous creature is totally invalid. And yeah, no, it doesn't. So they were just totally wrong about that. And a lot of people were upset about it. And I wasn't the only one. I went to comment and say some stuff, and I just realized that other people had already said exactly what I was going to say. So I just let that one go. But that's a case where they're trying to be controversial. I mean, that's their goal, is to get people to comment on their YouTube channel with, you know, with the exact opposite opinion. All right, so I'm running out of batteries. I guess the wrap-ups for this are: I love Tau and Tyranids, I love 6th edition. Hope you guys also love 6th edition, and hopefully I'll see you guys with another video soon. All right, have a good one.